Princess Street in downtown Wilmington has a richer history than many may believe. At the turn of the 19th century, it housed the building for Hugh McCrae's Wilmington Gaslight Company. Then he sponsored hub for streetcars that traveled patrons from Princess Street down to Luminous Station at Wrightsville Beach.
Later, it was referred to as Robbers Row, because lawyer and attorney offices occupied the street. Wink wink.
However, a fascinating highlight of Lower Princess is probably its history for the Feast of Pirates, celebrating the invasion of Blackbeard and other pirates in the early 1700s.
More ribald, mindless behavior than Wilmington saw before or has seen since.
Writes author historian Susan Taylor Block. We can take a deeper dive into the pirate waters next time, but for now, do well to know that at this address, 202, at the corner of 2nd and Princess. Some 50 years later, the former New York cafe quite appropriately evolves into another cafe bar.
Though the atmosphere is not at all ribald, nor its clientele mindless, but rather mindful and recklessly wholesome, one could say. CRONIES hosted some rather festive nighttime revelry, born of the need to think differently, feel different, and embark on a different, mixed cultural mingling. All evolving quite organically. In the early mid-80s, associated with the Wilmington PC-70s alternative-minded community, now 25 to 30-year-olds, a young couple, just a little older, opened the cafe. Offering support, the friends often patronize and invite other creative, cultivated friends. In town for work with the brand new film industry, many are of more varied races and ethnicity than Wilmington standard too. There's a playful, light-hearted, friendly atmosphere, so the place is always busy. Of course, it doesn't hurt that the light foods are delicious.
Among the actors, writers, visual artists etc., are a few virtuous musicians. One night, inspired, they run to their cars to get instruments. Prompting a momentary jam session, they discover that the most impromptu genre is jazz, flavored with a particular style of musicians playing that night. This musical assemblage would continue from weekend to weekend. Then night after night, they feature a recurring few, and add one or two different musicians each time. Even have a few patron listeners from the audience join the band, or take the mic. Eventually, this rotating band calls itself 2nd Street Jazz, though it isn't necessarily so. Occasionally having a funk drummer or bassist, rock guitarist, or soul saxophone, etc.
The place begins to have a coffee shop bookstore vibe, but without the coffee and books. Rather with cafe snacks, light beer, music, and genuine fellowship.
A couple of blocks away, on 2nd and Orange, at the Community Arts Center, previously the Hannah Block Historic USO building, there simultaneously manifests an eclectic group of wild-hearted teens who genuinely want to make a difference. Starting with the older kids from Wilmington Children's Theater, to the thespian, chorus, and marching band students from junior high schools around the city. Including the caring and characteristic teens who other students consider different. 5 to 10 from all 3 high schools, New Hanover, Hoggard, and the newly built Laney. Most of this culmination of punks, postmodern hippies, goths, and the colorful teens who won't let society confine them to any subculture, make up the Wilmington Youth Council. Of course, there are always strong ties to the equally eclectic sister cities, Raleigh Youth Council. They sometimes join the Wilmington team for civic meetings, joint advocacies, or merely to hang out, listen to mutually appreciated music, or share new age thoughts and ideas.
Subsequently, several of the older youth council members walk down to CRONIES for a bite. And there they remain, throughout the evening and night. Then, as if by osmosis, they become familiar and immediately form warm fraternities with the PC-70s community and the newly patronizing 60s. The cafe of surprisingly affectionate and now lucky patrons are pleased to hear the revving of 2nd Street Jazz as they fumble through sound check. And thus starts a tradition.
As the music eases from hot to burning, the attendees feel the rhythm and restlessness rise in their bones. So they dance in their seats until standing to dance in the spaces between the tables. The next night, everyone invites their other free-minded friends down for food and fervor. The larger crowd requires more space for dancing, to the ever-increasing burn of mixed-genre sounds, blaring from the front of the cafe. So they move the tables far to the sides, allowing the kaleidoscope of free groovers to shuffle onto what becomes a makeshift dance floor. The following weekends bring more and more alt-culture attendees.
Some youth council members come from Raleigh, while other artists swing over from Fayetteville, or the Jacksonville art punks tail in, or New Wave flower children roll down from the Asheville Mountains, and the romantic goths come up from Myrtle Beach.
Filling up the dance floor, the crowd eventually takes to dancing on the booth and tabletops. They swing dance, mosh and skank, pop rock, or jazz combo, to the screaming medleys from the ever-revolving band.
EP.2, almost central of this many varied dance jamboree, is Shelley John. An implant to the city, to the country even. She whirls from England, then to the States, and into town for work with the film industry, and has set this awkward but charming little town on its ear. Tall, statuesque gal, she wears cool funky clothes with bright colors and wild patterns. She's apparently had dance training, but lets no technique or genre confine her, as she allows her body to just ride the groove. A free spirit, if ever you've seen, she frolics wall to wall, through the crowd, mingling in and out of the dance floor, interacting through one dance genre or another, then onto the tables, etc. All the while, her big curly brown locks bounce to and fro, especially noticeable by the bold colored section she applies. Oh, did I mention Shelley's a highly sought and distinguished hairdresser? Yeah, that too. She charms the locals and even those well-traveled, with her inflected little British colloquialism.
The bee's knees. This eclectic crowd of regional local offbeats surely thinks her indeed. Shelley John and the cafe, bought with gusto and merriment, dance until the late night hours. Stop them.
Not done yet. They parley over to that cute little duplex up on 7th and Market, where they migrate for after-hours revelry.
Take note of the adjoining property. We'll get to that in a second.
But now, the absence of music and dance settles the ambience into deeper interaction, and conversations fly.
This rich, polycultural, cross-generational, broad-minded coalition of folks rail on about everything and nothing. Good and bad, education and physiology, society and politics, money and power, art and artistry, history and the currents, sex, sexuality and homosexuality, kind and evil, intelligence and philosophy, health and mortality, God, the devil, the mind and the world, everything and nothing.
Until the late night, and gradual departures empty the second-floor apartment, leaving still a couple dozen, a few passed out or sleeping.
But most delve deeper and explore the esoteric consciousness of being. What is life? And what is its purpose?
Until the morning sun beams through the tall windows. The new day wakes the party rousers, and they gradually dislodge from their especially affectionate cluster on the floor. Then these exceptionally social creatures greet the day with spunk and a delightful vigor. Thus they rouse into the spontaneous assemblage of a homemade breakfast banquet. They call from the landline to order coffees, only option then. Run out for some brunch treats, and a few other accoutrements. But primarily, they compile their monies for compensation, then cook, and simply devour every given morsel in the fridge.
Remember this adjoining property? It's this place. Only a driveway north. The owner markets it as a one-story office building. For decades, it was Employment Security Commission. 717 Market Street. It may be interesting to know that this is the location where, at the turn of the century, stood the Hugh McCrae House. 717 Market Street. The Hugh McCrae House was a sprawling classic southern homestead encompassing the entire block. It's written that the lady of the house maintained it with elegant and reserved formality. Curiously, this very property unfurls several of the most stargazing, welcoming, inclusive, and affectionate, all-encompassing, polycultural gatherings the city has ever known. Ironic, considering that many believe Hugh himself was unduly inflexible.
Perhaps a little bit of karma from the spirit happens in the soil, and maybe some of its due retribution occurs on top of it.
Oh, that Hugh. We can get to him at the end. Let's continue.
Now, speaking of the polyculture community and its affectionate cluster. For the Youth Council and young artists from the Art Center, affection is an unspoken signature and ongoing theme.
They are a particularly sensitive bunch.
Some have been outsiders most or all of their lives.
Thus, for some, it's a welcome change from the social distance they've known.
So the platonic, non-sensual, human contact is central to the communication of acceptance and devoted friendship.
As if to calm the individual hurt, and to soothe the collective soul of the city's untold trauma.
Even the newcomers, the trendsetters, the visionaries, the legendaries, the Ninja Royale, the House of Ninja Southern Corridor, Anton, Carl Drake, Benjamin, Yetta, Nisha, Lexi and others. We'll get to these guys in episode 10, Fusion Familiar. But all the blossoming avant, Lo and Friends, Millie and the fam, Chris Cross, Herb and the boys, Do and Duke, Karen and Steph. all the avants. Accept the non-sexual physical connection, and engage in free-spirited social intimacy.
They snuggle up for it, cuddle up to it, slumber with it, foster fun within it. Look at those bright, adorable faces. These expressive, intelligent trailblazers relish the mindful but boundless interpersonal contact, the pure, the wholesome, the adoration.
Even when gesturing crudeness or obscene nudity, the expressions don't convey the abrasive anti-socialism familiar from alternative youth. Instead, the level of light-hearted, casual, interactive physical frolicking welcomes otherwise.
This extended collection of magical, unassuming, lovable and loving kids, with respectful and respected boundaries, tend to poetically lounge in the bodily fellowship. When humans achieve little to no awareness of the physical self, the spiritual self takes hold, and the social interaction allows more profoundly meaningful exchange. That good old, down-home, untaintedly chaste, genuine warm affection.
As the historically reserved social separation grips the elders and the rest of the city, this oncoming generation practically douses themselves in the endearment,
Warm affection. While others completely submerge.
Leeway Rabbit, Sweet Polly Polly, and these others.
Warm affection. The social spiritual entanglement.